Alright, I'm going to be recording, talking while I'm driving. So right now it's about 9 in the morning and I'm going to go pick up my mom and then go get a haircut, which I haven't had my haircut for probably over 6 months. I don't really care to take the time or the money, but I've been going to a male barber. The last time I got my haircut was the first time. I usually always went to Walmart and just got it cut there, and I thought that was maybe the cheapest way to do it and the quickest way. And there's usually girls there that cut hair. I mean, there's no guys, so it's a hairstyling place. And anyway, I've decided to go to a male barber. I know my hair is getting a lot worse now, and I think that a male might have a better might know what's better for another male for their hair, and it's just something I've never done or thought of. So, and actually, I think that the last time I went, it was like half the price of going to Walmart. He only charged me like $7 or something, and I ended up giving him more just for a tip. But I think at Walmart the standard is like $15 or something around here. Whatever it was, he was cheaper, and he did a good job. He did, and it was fun. We talked, and so it wasn't weird or anything at all. Really, it was. So I'm going back, and who knows, when I get my hair cut again, I might let it grow out until I work for UPS again. But eventually, I'm gonna have to make a choice of if I'm gonna shave my head bald or whatever, because my hair is thinning out and everything, or shave it really close. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I don't care about how it looks so much, but I don't really like the way it feels and stuff once it gets so long and everything. And the Bible says, a man shouldn't have long hair, right? So, which I think is like long flowing hair, which I'm still kind of a long ways from that, but still, it's long enough for me to, at this point, it's summertime, and so I can get a fresh cut, whatever. Anyways, and then I'm going to a doctor's appointment, my yearly checkup, and I have high blood pressure. I've always taken 2 pills for years for my blood pressure, and I'm going to go see him. And I've had heartburn a lot. I've been taking Prilosec every day for like the last year, and I'm going to see if he can help give me some kind of prescription or something, which he might not, because last time I told him, I was having heartburn, and he just told me just to watch my diet. But we'll see what will happen. I've been gaining weight, and I don't know what my blood pressure is going to be like today. I haven't checked it. I haven't been good at checking it all the time. I've been trying to, but I don't end up doing it. So anyways, I'm talking while I'm driving. That's what I've got on the radar, and so it's about a 20-minute drive to my mom's, so I'm going to talk. But I want to talk more about Steven Anderson and MGTOW and just some other things and some other podcasts that I've listened to, or YouTube videos, whatever. I mean, first of all, okay, I think that Steven Anderson, he came out with a video against MGTOW, and he was wrong about it. He doesn't really understand the movement, and I mean, it's not really a movement. That's another thing. What is MGTOW? It stands for Men Going Their Own Way, and it's something I've kind of been a part of for years. Once I've discovered it, that basically there's just communities online with these other men that are going their own way, and they express their opinions online about marriage and about dating and women and just life in general. And I came across them, by Google searches, just by some of the opinions that I've had, and it's growing. There's more people that are discovering it, and there's more people that are identifying themselves as MGTOW. The main thing that MGTOW, a man going their own way, what it really pertains to is a man who has opted out of marriage, basically. And it could be for multiple reasons. And there can be people who are MGTOWs who were once married and they got a divorce, or their wife died or whatever else, and they're single now and they're not going to get married again. And so there's a lot of difference of opinions and things within people who identify as MGTOWs, and but that's basically the root of it. You can't really be married and be a MGTOW at the same time. But there's nothing wrong with married men, and there's nothing wrong with getting married, and there's nothing wrong with women. And obviously, as a Christian, I do believe that God God-ordained marriage, or however you want to say it. But then again, what is a biblical marriage? That's always the question too. Is it, all the same? It's not the same legal marriage that we have today, and everything's not the same. So a lot of laws and things have changed. And so what really is a biblical marriage? I think personally that a biblical marriage, at its most minimal form, is basically, two people making a commitment to each other in the name of God, and, a husband and a wife, a male and a female, and I think that, biblically, I think it's good that there are witnesses for it, but it's basically, it's a commitment unto God. It doesn't have to be a legal paper signed, for the state and everything. But I'm not necessarily saying that's wrong either. But I want to say that Steven Anderson, well, for one, he's a pastor at a church building, and I don't know if he charges to do weddings or not. And if he does, then maybe it's in his best interest to continually tell people to get married. Because for these church buildings, for these pastors, weddings and funerals can be a big business. But I'm not really accusing him of that because I don't know. And I know that the money goes back into the church, it goes back into the ministries and stuff like that. But it is like a source of income. But the Bible doesn't say that everybody who's a Christian needs to get married or they're disobeying God. And that's kind of how he comes across. Now, Steven Anderson himself is married. He's been married for a long time. He's got a lot of children. And, he says he's happily married and everything. And so, he uses that as an example of, a lot of guys out there whining, saying that, there are no desirable women that are worthy of being wives, or, even the other way around with women complaining about men, whatever. Or there's all these disadvantages of marriage, the legalities of it or whatever. He uses himself as an example, saying, see, well, I've been married and it can happen and everything else. Well, one thing is that Steven Anderson was raised in the church system, and it's believed among a lot of them that, they interpret, I don't remember if it was Timothy or what it is, but, there's basically that passage that says that a bishop should be a husband of one wife, and basically that his kids should be in subjection. And there's this teaching that in order to be a pastor, you have to be married and you have to have kids. It's completely absurd. Because, we have to take all of Scripture into context, and we see that Timothy, I think himself, and obviously Paul and Jesus weren't married. And then people will say, well, Paul and Jesus, they weren't pastors or whatever. People will come up with all kinds of things. But it's completely foolish. Like, let's take it to its logical conclusion that you have to be married and have kids to be a pastor. Well, what if you get married and you have kids and you're ready to be ordained to be a pastor, but your kids die or your wife dies or both of them? And that's a horrible thing to say, but I'm saying, what if they do? You no longer have a wife. You had a wife, but now you don't. And you don't have kids. So now you can't be ordained. That's completely foolish. Or what if it happens after the guy is already ordained as the pastor? Well, I'm sorry about your loss, but we're also going to have to strip you of being a pastor because you no longer have a wife or kids. That's foolish. It's like being a pastor entirely hinges on having a wife or kids. That's not what the Bible teaches. And I personally think that the interpretation is that if a man who desires to be a pastor is married, he can only be married to one wife. And so it's a verse that's against polygamy. It's saying one wife specifically. And also, as far as the children go, it's saying that his children must be in subjection. It doesn't say that if a man desires to be a bishop, he must be married, he must have kids. And that's how they interpret it. I'm thinking it says that, if he is married and he does have kids, he has to be married to one wife only, and his kids have to be, in order. Basically, he has to be a good example. That's what it all boils down to. In his lifestyle, not be a brawler or a drunkard or whatever. He has to be a good example, and that's just common sense. And all Christians are called to be good examples. We're all to follow Christ. And, this, I don't know if I said anything about this, but there was one of those stupid live stream meetings that Brian Denlinger does with his Bible thumping friend, whatever, the AV Bible thumper, I can't even remember I don't know what his name was. The different YouTube names. Anyways, one of those guys on there said basically that if you're not married, that you can't give instruction, you can't give a Christian instruction to married couples or whatever. You can't teach on marriage, basically. Which again is a completely ignorant, foolish statement, because Paul and Jesus and many other people in the scriptures taught about marriage, and they weren't married themselves. So that's completely ignorant. We know what God says about marriage in the Bible, so even somebody who's never been married can know what God wants, okay, when it concerns marriage. So I think that there's kind of this pride issue with people who are married. A lot of guys, a lot of younger guys or middle-aged guys, they just think that everybody should just easily do what they've done, and they think they're the perfect example and all of this. And I think it's kind of like with me, almost, with my drug addictions and stuff in the past, where I could be kind of prideful about being clean and sober now, and I can just look at other people who struggle with addictions and just be like, hey, why don't you just be clean and sober like I am? I did it, why can't you? But you got to put yourself in other people's shoes. These guys who are married now, they don't know what the dating world is like now. They don't know a lot of things, and they're not trying to. They're not trying to be thoughtful or considerate of anything. They just think everything's black and white, and that's the way it should be. But first and foremost, some of our greatest examples in scriptures of men, godly men, were not married. Okay. And so the Bible doesn't say that you have to get married. And Paul says basically that in some ways it's better that if you don't desire to get married, then you live a single life and you give your life to God. You dedicate your entire life to God instead of a wife or kids, because he basically says that those who are married, they have to tend to their wives, and they have to tend to worldly things, basically. And he's not saying that marriage is bad either. But we also have to take into context a lot of things with, I'm specifically thinking of the United States, because marriage is different in a lot of other countries. In other countries, marriage it's still special, and the traditions and everything are still there. And so let's go back to Steven Anderson and MGTOW, and Steven Anderson will say, well, some men who abstain from marriage, who consider themselves MGTOW, they'll just sleep around, or they'll suggest sleeping with prostitutes or whatever. And yeah, that's wicked, but that's not all of them. He even says himself, some remain celibate. So you can't say what an individual who identifies as this speaks for the whole group. It's just like saying that a Christian, someone who claims to be a Christian believes this or does this, therefore all Christians are like that. So no. That's why I'm saying at the core of MGTOW, it's men who are opting out of marriage. That's basically it. And then the rest is, up for debate between individuals. And he said he doesn't like MGTOW because he thinks that basically they're proselytizing other men, or they're telling other men not to get married. Well, for one thing, that's not true either. MGTOW stands for men going their own way. So it's all about individuals who have opted out of marriage. And basically they're meeting together on communities online and stuff like that, YouTube or forums or whatever. So it's not really about spreading and changing everything. It's it's just about men's own individual choices and sharing that with other men who share that as well. And there's nothing wrong with spreading some warnings, saying that, it's not good for everybody to go out and say, well, everybody needs to get married, and, everybody's, marriage is perfect, and you're not going to have any problems, and all of this, and, there's nothing to worry about legally. There are concerns, that it should be expressed, just like with anything. You got to show all sides of everything. People need to know what they're getting into. A lot of people are getting married ignorantly now. There's a lot of people getting married for the wrong reasons. There's a lot of people that are married getting divorced for the wrong reasons. There's so many people getting married really young, and that's not always a problem, but there's people that are, having kids out of wedlock, and then they're getting married because they think that's the right thing to do. And, sometimes it's just people are getting married for the wrong reasons. Anyway, so I'm just showing them, I'm pointing out some inconsistencies of Steven Anderson and really his ignorance on the whole thing. And I can't believe that I haven't really expressed as much as I wanted to, and I'm already over halfway to where I'm going. But let's see, I don't know. Maybe I'll record a video on the way back. I wanted to talk about so many other things. Okay, Steven Anderson himself is married. For one, he thinks that he has to be married and have kids to be a pastor because he was raised in that church system. But his wife is a foreigner, okay? I don't remember where she's from, Germany or wherever. She's from another country, okay? And he met her, and he basically converted her. And I think that's one of the best ways for a Christian man or a Christian woman to meet a good Christian partner, is basically to convert them, because that's basically the way that I see it for myself. It's really rare and hard to find other good Christian people out there, and I'm not saying that they're not. I mean, of course there's good Christians everywhere, but sometimes it seems like they're harder to find than you think. He basically converted her, and it's good that way too, because they don't have a lot of their own thoughts already on Scripture and how everything should be, and they're more open and willing to learn, because a lot of people that have already been saved for a long time and studying the Bible, they can be hard-headed about their beliefs. And me personally, I'm not looking to be with somebody who I'm going to headbutt over Scripture all the time. I want a woman to be more in subjection to the faith, that I believe, that I follow. So, and that's why, you can't just go to a church building and meet somebody there. There's a lot of issues with that, because they're already ingrained in, listening to their pastor, and if I had a disagreement with the pastor, then, they're always going to choose him over me or whatever, and it's just not going to work. But also, I don't know if he met her from Germany or whatever, but a lot of other countries are traditional about marriage, and, I'm just going to speak as an American in the United States. It seems a general idea between men that there's kind of a downfall with, women and dating, basically, and maybe with men too, but I'm not looking at it from a man's perspective. But basically, I don't know. It's basically like, let's say if I just talk to a girl from my area or from anywhere in the United States or the state I live in, I can be taken for granted and everything and disrespected or whatever, and I can go talk to somebody from the Philippines or from some Muslim country or whatever, and they're going to be a whole lot more open and acceptive and more kind and respectful. That's just the way it is. And it could be because I'm an American and I'm talking with them. It could be that. Which is another thing that I wanted to point out too, is that, Steven Anderson's American and he had a foreign wife. Steven Anderson also is very famous, and he also, maybe for the wrong reasons, but he's famous, and he also has no problems with money at all. And I'm not going to say that he's really rich I know a lot of his funds probably go right back into the ministry and all that, but I'm pretty sure that he's not going to be struggling, and his wife and his kids aren't going to be struggling. I'm sure he lives a very humble life. I could be wrong about this, and a lot of people might not like me saying this, but those are some of the things that a lot of women desire. You know, men and women have a lot of different goals of what they want out of the other sex, and men and women are made differently, no matter how much society tries to say that we're the same. You know, we have different bodies and different minds, and we have different needs and wants, and it's pretty much a general consensus that, you know, women are looking for usually a provider, or, you know, for protection, or, you know, they are interested a lot in fame and money and stuff like that. And I'm not saying every woman, okay, obviously, but, you know, those could be the things that have kept his marriage for so long, you know what I mean? That helps him. So Steven Anderson doesn't really speak for the average guy who's out there struggling, who's, you know, looking to date local women, and you know, to find a wife locally, and doesn't have, you know, all the finances taken care of, and doesn't, you know, have all the fame and everything. So people might not like me saying that, but, you know, that's one thing I got to point out. He doesn't speak for, you know, the average guy. He doesn't. So I'm at my mom's, so I'm gonna stop this now, and I'll just continue on the ride back. I'll talk more. So God bless, and I hope anybody doesn't take this the wrong way. I'm just throwing thoughts out there for you to think about this stuff, and it's mostly just about, you know, Steven Anderson doesn't know what he's talking about. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm against marriage, or, you know, yeah, just basically saying I'm not against marriage, but at the same time, not everybody has to get married. So God bless.